In the article, Three Ways to Respond, they talk about obviously what it says, the three ways to respond to an article. Just and, no because, and okay but is what they say they are. So first they start off talking about the first three chapters of the book. And they say that these chapters mostly focused on the stage of writing of or when. Or, sorry, the stage of writing where you focus on the author's arguments and what they say. And then this chapter it changes because it's about you the stage where the stage I say or your response to what they are saying. So they talk about then they lay out the three ways to respond. Agree, disagree, or a mix of both. They give you three simple things to say: I agree, I disagree, or I am of two minds. I agree that, but I can't agree that. This, they say, they argue, allows the reader to better simplify, your argument in their head. So they first talk about disagreement. When writing about disagreement, you can't just state why they're wrong, but, you must add to the conversation and state, and, put in arguments about why they are wrong. So you can't just say, they're wrong because their argument's stupid. You have to say they're wrong because they miss out on this fact. And then next they talk about agreement. So they say you can't just state that they're correct, just like the last one. You can't just state that they're incorrect, but you must add to why they are over. You must add to their argument, so add overlooked arguments, etc. You can also add things that argue why it is important to argue for your opinion, or like challenging another point of view. Then they talk about the agree and disagree at the same time. And here they talk about how it allows us to go beyond to go beyond arguments are like is to is not arguments like what kids do, and they say you can argue that part of their argument is right and part of their argument is wrong. Or you can just say that you're conflicted, like both sides make good arguments. They also talk about objections or worries on this, like using this one, and they say the writer can seem evasive, like they don't want to face tough questions, but they also say that this can be a good way to go about it because having mixed thoughts can look good because it can make you look like you aren't afraid to admit you don't have all the answers. Pretty much is what they say. And my response to this article, I'll focus on the last one. I would say when they say it allows us to go beyond is to and is not arguments, I would agree with this and say most things are a gray area, and many times both sides have good arguments that are partially correct, and you can't just go about and choose one because you know that both sides have good arguments. But then I also thought that the last thing they said, so pretty much it can make you look like you're making better arguments because you're willing to not take a firm stance on it and not admit that you have all the answers. So I equated this to like when someone admits they're wrong. It kind of shows maturity and that they aren't just working for, that they are working for the truth. And this especially goes with politics, where people kind of tribalize based off of what other people that have similar views to them have, and they can't go off of what those people say, where because the other side said this, well then it must be incorrect. And if you're willing to say that both sides have good arguments, then you're going beyond that, and it looks like to the reader that you are working more for the truth than you are for the interests of one side of the argument or the other. You aren't just arguing to argue because you want to be correct. You want to prove that you're right and you're smarter. And this is a lot about just like somebody being willing to admit they're wrong, where they seem like when you're willing to admit that you're wrong, um, that people see that and they think, well, this person's saying, hey, I was wrong on this argument, and they see that and they go, okay, well, you're willing to admit that, so I know that if you're wrong on something, or you're not gonna probably lie to me, and you're gonna admit to me when you're incorrect. So you're willing to change things based off of new information instead of just going based off of your preconceived notions.